we really have to stop giving athletes, movie stars, music stars, credence when it comes to political and social issues. Because the reality is, a lot of them are just, a lot of them, I don't mean to sound judgmental, are not that bright. Okay, they're not thinking about these issues day in, day
I just
out.
want to play football.
But yes,
I'm a
yes,
footballer.
and you know what? Just that's okay.
He was
It's
made to play
okay.
football.
It's one of I think I think this whole thing started in the '60s. George Best was really the first kind of celebrity footballer, but I see this all the time with like film stars and music stars too. Can you please shut the fuck up? This week, proving that celebrity athletes should never be your barometer of moral standing, Jordan Henderson had an interview in The Athletic where he tried to justify his pro LGBTQ stance whilst taking bags of cash to move to Saudi Arabia. Hint, it didn't go well. Legendary actor, playwright, philosopher, author Stephen Fry, and a legend in the LGBTQ community, gives his thoughts.
I've talked a lot about human rights issues in Saudi Arabia once Newcastle United were bought, and learnt lots more about it myself. And it isn't all on Jordan Henderson, right? But he was such a great ally to the LGBTQ plus community. I'm just really interested in how you feel about that move and about what is happening and how little people talk about the human rights. Eventually, people just talk about the money and the football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always hesitant to criticize an individual, but I'm certainly willing to say that I personally have been offered just stupid things like going to do an evening with comedy routines and things in hotels in Saudi Arabia and in Abu Dhabi and other places. And I had done it back in the early 90s. But since then, I've always thought that, no, I can't go to a country where I couldn't share the hotel bedroom with my husband, where I'm not welcome, where people like me are being tortured and put to death in some instances, where it's all very well for those countries to say they won't be dictated to and given Western values, and well, fine, but then I won't be dictated to either, and being sort of made to pretend to respect something that I can't respect. And I've heard people defending Saudi Arabia in this respect, in a sort of rather twisted way, which at least gives one pause. And what they say is, well, listen, if we don't encourage Saudi Arabia to face West and to involve themselves in our sports and games and our culture, and whether or not they're actually buying it or not, then what they'll do is just turn east, and they'll connect themselves more and more to Russia and China. And is that what we want? We want all that money and influence that they have to leak away to those who are perceived by some to be virtually our enemies. And that's all big geopolitics and is too much for me. But so I have to, sort of end where I began. And that is, personally, I could never involve myself with those countries and offers they make and the money they dangle, tempting as it might be. I can't speak for Jordan Henderson, a wonderful man, and always admired and liked him. And who knows what his family pressures are and what his thoughts are, because one thing I'll not have is that particular pressure that all sporting people have, which is that their time in the sun is very short. They can't guarantee they're going to have managerial or broadcasting careers after their brief moment in the sun. And they have to think of their families and their future. And it's not for me to boss them about. It's nothing less attractive than that. But I can speak for myself, I suppose.
Well, the big thing they're talking about is because Jordan Henderson, who was he's an English footballer from England, and and he played for Liverpool in the midfield, been a captain, whatever. He
Arguably been one of Liverpool's most successful captains.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
champion, and he was the captain of their first Premier League winning
of the English national team for quite some time as
The-
well. I mean, he's a big footballer.
He captained Liverpool to their first English championship success in 30 years. So, yeah, he's up there.
Yeah.
He's up there
Well, he moved to, like many have,
to Saudi Arabia.
to the money. The three kings with their many treasures have enticed Jordan Henderson to become one of the messiahs in Saudi Arabian football. Yeah, he jumped ship and took all the monies. And as we all know from the World Cup in Qatar and everywhere else, that part of the world ain't too friendly to the LGBTQ gay communities, so on and so forth.
Not at all.
And Jordan Henderson is a huge, or I don't know that I'm taking off what these fellows are saying, but apparently a big supporter of that community. And much as a lot of the English national players and players in general, and came out with some comments basically saying, "Oh, I can't really judge Saudi Arabia. We have to respect their values too." When he was asked if he was gonna, say anything in support of the LGBT community or wear a rainbow-colored captaincy band.
He said
all
that he
this.
was still a firm supporter of the LGBT community, and they were just like, "Well, then how can you take the Saudi money?" Like people are literally executed for just being who they are in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
Like
It's tragic.
There is no Pride Month in June in Riyadh.
Pride Month.
It just doesn't.
Pride Month in Riyadh
exist.
is something vastly different.
Yeah, like
they're prideful, but about different things.
and for gay people outside, I cannot emphasize this enough. For gay people outside of the Western world, whether it's the United States, Canada, Australia, Europe, like the vast majority of them, their life is tragic. It's utterly hard. They just cannot be who they are, and they have actual.
They just aren't.
They're just not allowed to exist legislatively. They're just not allowed to exist.
No. They exist. It's very, very hidden and secretive.
Of course,
having been to.
That's exactly what I just said.
Right, but I mean, to say they don't exist, they exist. It's just very taboo. It can't be public facing.
They are not allowed,
as is in the West.
They are not allowed to exist legislatively, so they have to hide underground. They have to hide who they are, and it's hell. And I feel so bad for them.
Well,
I really do.
They just exist in the system that is where they reside.
Yeah.
I mean, the point is, if they are ever public about it, it's very bad, very fast,
Yes.
which is not good, right?
No.
So the point is, around this particular story with Jordan Henderson is the rank hypocrisy of going. I was personally shocked when he went.
I was
like,
really?
How
old
is
he now?
Jordan Henderson?
Like, he's what, 31?
He's in his 30, 32, 33, 34. He's somewhere in there.
He could still play another couple of years at Liverpool.
Look, they are offering tons of money.
Yeah.
And and what Saudi Arabia is doing is they're trying to find other means of influence with the oil money they have before the oil money runs out and the oil dries up.
Is that what?
Right?
Yeah, Mohammed
they're
bin
trying
Salman
to. They're trying to find other means of influence and in this way. That's why they're buying up sport, because sport is a huge thing that the entire world watches and supports, and they want to be part of that. They haven't really been. So now that's why they're buying up all the clubs and they're spending all this money on players because they have it.
Yep.
And they want to get the prestige, so they can project that out to the world. And Stephen Fry's statement of it's good to connect them with the Western world and this than the East, I agree.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. All about it. I get that. But in his particular case, and it's different when you got people from Africa going there or even South America, some of those types of folks. Ronaldo and every fine. I mean, I'm sure they're big proponents of LGBTQ as well. But with Jordan Henderson, I mean, he's like really one of the first big English guys who's gone. Or maybe the first biggest
Steven
English
Gerrard
guy.
went to manage a team.
Yeah, true. Steven Gerrard went to manage. Yeah, so same on him. But I guess maybe Jordan Henderson more outwardly spoken about it. The point is, how do you accept all that money again when you know these things aren't? If you're such a big supporter. And I also agree with Stephen Fry. I'm not going to pass judgment because we don't know the personal circumstances, and it's hard to pass up that amount of money. It really is. But it goes back to what are your principles? What do you stand for as a person? And what are you willing to live with? What are you willing? What are you living? What are you willing to live with, and what are you willing to give up in order to make those choices? Will this affect Jordan Henderson in the long run? Probably not. It's something that it has come and it will go. I don't think it's going to negatively impact his career or anything to too much of a state. But it is an interesting thought exercise and conversation to have around that topic, around how really bad it is in those areas for those people. And then to be someone who's such a big proponent of it, supposedly, allegedly, and then go and be with the people that are most outwardly, outspokenly against
it. Yes.
with real horrific
Consequences. Yeah.
if those individuals ever really became public.
Mhm.
So, get your bag. I mean, I would never say if it's offered to you, you want to get your bag, get your bag. But, for example, Lionel Messi did not go there for a lot of different reasons. But, he's still going to make his money.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Jordan Henderson would have come to the United States or not. But, there are plenty of other English clubs he could have gone to. He would not have made as much money.
No.
He would not have made as much money.
Certainly not.
But then it comes to,
did the Saudis ever try to?
What do you, as a man, what are your principles? What are your values? And what are you willing to give up to stay principled to those values? And, if Jordan Henderson is really such a big proponent of that, and you're going to Saudi Arabia, and then you're going to say, well, we have to respect their values too. It's like, well,
here's the
are
thing.
you staying principled to your values then? Or are you just a greedy, money-grubbing guy who saw his opportunity to make a shit ton of money before your career ends out? And again, I can't fault you for that because Stephen Fry, again, is it true? You don't know how long as a footballer or any as professional athlete you have to be in professional athletics, and you got to make your money.
It's a very short career.
It's very short.
It's a very short career.
And he's right. Not everybody becomes a pundit. Not everybody becomes a manager.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out for everybody, so you're just you got to go find and do something else if you don't make that. I think Jordan Henderson probably would have made it as a pundit. But nevertheless, again, I think the big story here really is more around thinking about these people and as a person and as a man, what do you believe in? What are your values? Are you principled to them? And in this particular case, is he a sellout? Is it a fair thing to say he's a sellout?
Here's an alternative. Okay. And this is something that I probably think is more apt, and that is we really have to stop giving athletes, movie stars, music stars, credence when it comes to political and social issues, because the reality is a lot of them are just a lot of them, I don't mean to sound judgmental, are not that bright. Okay, they're not thinking about these issues day in, day out.
I just want to play football.
But yes.
I'm a footballer.
And you know what? Just that's okay.
He was made to play football.
It's one of I think, and I think this whole thing started in the 60s. George Best was really the first kind of celebrity footballer. But I see this all the time with like film stars and music stars too. Can you please shut the fuck up when it comes to social issues and just entertainment?
Well, it depends. It depends.
It depends. And if you don't really know a lot about the issue,
this is how I would differentiate it.
Okay.
If you're an athlete and you do express those views publicly and unprompted, so you come out and say political things because you want to use your platform with millions of people. And when you're a large athlete, you get that. So if you do that publicly, unprovoked, right? So in this particular case, Jordan Henderson was provoked with the question. He didn't outwardly come out and say, hey, I'm moving to Saudi Arabia, and you know what? I got to respect everybody's views in Saudi Arabia, even though I support the LGBT community, and see you later. Like he didn't do that. Like a reporter asked him a question, and then he said what he said. So I'm less to criticize him more than like a LeBron James who outwardly or a Megan Rapinoe
makes it
who makes it their whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like to those people, I agree with you. STFU, shut the fuck up. Okay, nobody wants to hear your stuff. If you're asked as a football, I respect footballers who will won't answer
but then there's
questions.
some that do. It's
I respect footballers who keep their political views private, as you should. Just for your career, you should keep those matters private, unless you're a LeBron James, who doesn't matter. He's your LeBron James.
Yeah.
But most people are not LeBron James, right? Like you say some stuff, and it could negatively impact your career. The owner of your team. That's what happened to Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was not LeBron James status. It impacted his athletic career.
Didn't he have
outwardly speaking about it until it became socially acceptable because he started that movement. So now other players, black players, could do that, and they were not as. There might be some examples of others who were as duly punished as Colin Kaepernick.
He had one good year with the 49ers.
Yes, he wasn't that great of a quarterback. Everybody seems to forget, but nevertheless, he did win one time with the 49ers. But the point is. My biggest thing is I'm not going to fault Jordan Henderson for going and getting his bag in Saudi Arabia, and then out of the blue being asked a question where he's kind of put in there's no easy answer. He gave the best answer.
Stephen Fry was right in that sense. This is life-changing generational money for the Henderson family.
Yeah.
Like Oscar said this. Oscar was a Brazilian soccer player.
Moved to China.
Who moved to China when he was still well into his prime.
And he was crucified for doing it.
He was 25 or 26.
Yeah, he was very young. Moved from Chelsea to China.
Chelsea. And he won a Champions League with Chelsea.
Yeah.
He was up there, but he went to China and he was just like, listen, the reason is simple. I can set up everyone in my family, not just his nuclear family, but we're talking cousins, uncles, grandparents. You can set them up for life.
Lots of players have used that, and it's a very proper. But then again, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can still do that playing in England and making the money there. It's a lot more money. It goes to I don't.
Well, how old was
I don't judge him for doing it and doing that. It's noble to do so. He still could have helped out his family staying there. It depends on what are your values, and are you going to stay principled to those values as a person, as a man, as an athlete, as anybody, female as well. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I honestly don't think he even thought about it before he went there. Because maybe
he did, maybe he didn't.
Because the thing is
he a sellout? Is he a sellout?
If you are going to act on principles,
into the mic.
If you're just gonna,
yes or no?
I would probably err on yes.
Yeah, I think so too. If you're so strongly a supporter of that, and then you go and you take a bunch of money in a place where they are very openly against it,
yes,
you're kind of a sellout. I'm not going to judge you for getting your bag as an athlete. But as a person, you've definitely you've compromised your principles and values to make money, where you could still make a lot of money, not as much money, but still make money. It's not like It's not like he's going to only make $1,000, and now in Saudi Arabia he's going to make $100 million. He would stiuld be making millions of dollars that would help his family.
If you're a Champions League,
come on. If you invest it wisely, that can be.
But you also have to take into account the tax rate. Last time I lived in the UK,
it is tax free.
If
there is that.
And even managers like Arsene Wenger railed against the English tax rate when it came to signing players. Because last time this was like 10 years ago now, but when I lived in England, the tax rate for the highest earners is like a rate of 50 pence. So the government would literally take half your money. So if you're trying to convince players to come and play in England, and you can easily, as a Saudi sheikh or whatever, just go to the top English and
Jordan
say,
Henderson
you
did
can
all
keep
the stuff.
all this money.
He did everything he needed to do in England. Now he's going to get his back.
Well,
I don't begrudge him.
There is that as well.
I don't begrudge him, but you sold out.
He's a Champions League, Premier League winner with Liverpool.
He's accomplished the things you play in Europe for.
Yes, yeah.
Now he's old by athlete standards. He's basically my age.
Yeah.
He's going to get his back. I don't begrudge him. Do you, boo-boo? But you also now, because you've gone there and done it, you have to be labeled. You have to accept the label of a sellout.
Yeah.
And if he's cool with it, and he's like, "Look at my Ferraris," then hey, fine.
You do you. Video?
But just like everything else we've talked about in all of the things we've discussed,
So,
there are
which
consequences to actions you take in life.